grab your cup as I pour the tea. It's gonna get deep as we unload and get free. Hello, this is Sharon Lady B. Richards. I am super excited for you to join me on this journey of soulful self-care and love. This passionate podcast will drop some gems from my courageous guests as they share their journey of what it took for them to accomplish their goals, dreams, and healing. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Unloaded, the self-healing journey. And this is our second episode called Healing from Self. And I'm so super excited to announce this fabulous guest that I've known many years, that I love like a real sister. You know, sometimes we say our sister friend, but I love her like a real sister.
Oh.
And so I'm just so honored to have her today as she shares her journey with us. And so welcome.
Thank you so
Selena.
much.
This is Selena Cannon.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Guys, just be prepared to listen in, have all ears, because this is going to bless you. This is going to help you. She's going to share some nuggets with us. She has had an experience that a lot of us have had in certain ways, that is relatable, right?
Yes.
So she's going to share. So you want to just really take the time out to listen and just listen to this marvelous journey. I'm going to tell a little bit about Selena, right? And then we're going to just have you speak from your heart, So on the first day of the year, Selena, you was born January 1st,
Yes.
right? How excited are we about January 1st?
Yes.
It's just a new year, new opportunity, right? So Selena Cannon was born and raised in South Jamaica, Queens. That's New York for people who don't know where that is. Coming from a single parent household and a colorful lifestyle, she has experienced life, death, and back to life. Despite the many obstacles while growing up from living in the street, near-death encounters, and endless curveballs life threw her way, she landed on her feet, married with 3 children. At the age of 44, she found herself having to start over after a tragic loss of a loved one due to terminal disease and suddenly became a widow. Needless to say, this changed the trajectory of her finances, her living situation, and her faith. She now had to change her whole outlook for her future. What she had believed in for a long and what was looking forward to was gone. While simultaneously dealing with the grief and feeling that half of her life had already passed by her. Ideally, she hoped the circumstances would give her the strength she never knew before, but in reality, she just fell apart. Selena was brokenhearted.
Yes.
So let me start with the tragic loss,
Yes.
because this is vague for us. So let's share a little bit about the tragic loss.
Yes.
Who that was to you,
Yes.
right? Who that was to you. And let's start there. Who was
Okay.
that to you?
Well, I was married.
Okay.
After being raised in the hood,
Right.
South Jamaica, Queens,
Right.
which is a wonderful place.
It really is.
It is. We talk about international
Yes,
places, and we
yes.
talk about all these islands, and we talk about living in privileged neighborhoods
Right.
and ghettos. But the hood,
Right. But
is a little different.
Yes.
It's a in between the ghetto and the upscale place.
Yes.
So anyway, after having those experiences and growing up in the neighborhood I did grow up in, I was fortunate enough to find somebody who I could be myself with.
Wow.
And we had a very vivacious marriage. We kind of met each other doing some things, a little crime and,
Okay.
a little.
Don't you love her already?
We
Keep
did.
going.
I don't like to go into the bonding
Right,
and climb
that's
thing because
okay.
it's so cliche, but we did. We had some backgrounds that was similar, and we knew how to hustle. And
Right.
we took that and we grew with that.
Right.
And we not only grew in the hustle, but we grew out of that and became very, very powerful in the gospel. We became saved simultaneously.
Wow.
Even while he went to jail. I did the bid for him. Even as, you know, we know people who have had, relationships where their spouse had to go to jail, or their fiance or their boyfriend they were home with 3 and 4 kids, and sometimes we look down on that. But that thing turned into a wonderful marriage. And we
Wow.
were even exposed to a very prominent ministry where we were used greatly,
Wow.
and our lives came together. We did a couple of things with that. We broke the generational curses where there was only a one family household, had a
Right.
household.
Right.
We broke the curse where the children didn't have a father in the home.
Right.
We broke the curse where you had so many things in your past you couldn't start over, and we had wonderful income.
Mm.
And God, because we did it simultaneously, we gave our life to Christ, and we stayed steered and straight on the path of narrow. And when things looked like they were about to explode into this wonderful ministry and life, he became terminally ill.
Wow.
And, even with that, we thought that was part of it. It was going to end up as this great Job story. Oh, this
Right.
was going to be,
Right.
this is
Icing
going to
on
be
the cake.
Selena
Yes.
3:16.
Woo. Wow.
But God
Yes.
is something else.
Yes.
Somebody
Yes.
told me one time, um, you don't know God until He breaks your heart. So even as
Mm.
my bio says, I was brokenhearted. I wasn't just brokenhearted because my husband had passed away, because my husband died. He was terminally ill. He was diagnosed. He did the prayer of faith. He walked into the church after with staples in his brain with a brain tumor. He took his baby to Disney World
Mm-hmm.
and did all those things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that showed that he had the faith that God was going to restore him and
Right.
keep him alive.
Right.
But it didn't happen that way.
Mm.
God told me as I was doing the nurturing and I was walking it through that He did give him life more abundantly and everlasting.
And everlasting.
He gave him life.
Wow.
Life everlasting. And so he did pass away. And I was not just brokenhearted because I had lost my husband, but I was brokenhearted because now I didn't know. All that I believed that was going to happen,
Right.
all that future that was based on this restoration and all this recovery and all this,
Right.
these promises that match up with the word and prophecies that were spoken over
Right.
me, all that
Right. Wow.
vanished. I was back at square one. In fact, I probably could have started at square one. I was on a circle. I wasn't even on a square.
Oh,
I was somewhere
wow.
else. I was somewhere where I had never been before. I was
Wow.
somewhere else.
So he passed. Your husband
He
passed.
did.
And that was after all the prophecies made. That was after you trusting and believing God's word.
Yeah.
But I like what you said about, repeat that. That's a nugget. You said somebody said, no, you don't really know God until he breaks your heart. What is
Somebody told me that. They said, you don't know God until He breaks your heart.
right? And what did that look like for you?
I thought when I heard it, it hit me in a way. I didn't hear it in a negative way.
Right.
I heard it
Right.
as an epiphany.
Right.
Because,
Exactly.
we are in relationship with God.
Right.
When you're in a relationship with God, and a lot of times we use our own personal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to use it as parent, and child,
Right.
but a lot of times we do use it in a romantic way. We compare it that way
Right.
because I love you, I adore you, I
Right.
magnify you, and
Right.
and if you're really in a relationship with someone, you listen to them, so you don't
Right.
do all the talking. You read the word too, and all those things we tell
Right.
each other because
Right.
we're so deep, right?
Right. Right.
But you know what? Even the one that we loved and we married and we went and gave our hearts to and vowed, right?
Mm-hmm.
They disappointed us. They fell off the pedestal.
Right.
And they did something to make us, that hurt us.
Right.
And we still committed to them. And we
right.
still stayed with them.
Right.
And we had children with them.
That's right.
And we did what? We put our
Right.
money with them and
That's
bought
right.
homes. We sacrificed for them.
Wow.
Right?
That's right.
And so breaking your heart, I'm so sorry,
No,
but
go ahead.
breaking your heart doesn't take away from the fact that God loves us unconditionally.
Right.
It means He loves us even through that.
Right. So you said you didn't go back to square one. You went back to a circle. Speak to that.
Yeah, because you know, when you say you go back to square one, that means that you started from where you stood or a place that you're familiar with. But I was in a place that I knew nothing of. I knew nothing of this place. I didn't know
So
anything
you,
about this place that I was in. I didn't know where to start. I had already done everything. I had already given up everything. I had this whole lifestyle in the past that you know I knew had that work out
right,
for me,
right,
and then I gave everything over, and it worked out wonderful. I thought,
right.
but that did the same thing that the threat of the other lifestyle did. They said if you keep that up, Selena, you'll lose everything. Well, I
Wow,
didn't keep it up, and I still lost everything.
wow, wow,
And I still lost everything. And
wow.
where somebody would say, well, don't kill you, make you strong, and
Right.
those are the things that that bring you through. You know what? I fell apart. People came to me with the word, and I was very versed in the word. I was very versed in the word. I am very versed in the
Right,
word.
right, right.
I when I decided to give my life to Christ, my husband at the time was in prison, and I decided to stay home and open up those books. And for that bid that he did, I did it in the word, and I walked through that Bible like a walk in the park. And
Wow.
I knew the word. I had relationship with Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and I wouldn't go over to the New Testament until Job told me it was okay.
Oh,
And I
wow.
just had relationship with that word, and I knew the word. So when
Right,
my tragedies came, I didn't need the word.
right. Well, you
I didn't need them to tell me the word.
then you didn't need anybody to tell you word. You
I
already
knew
had it
that
in your
word.
heart. You
I
already
didn't
had it
need
in your heart.
somebody to tell me what the word said. I didn't need anybody to remind me what God will do. I didn't need anybody to give me the circumstances that happened already in the old and the new. I didn't need another prophecy.
Right. What did you need?
I didn't know.
Did you did you eventually find out?
I did.
Okay.
I
Share
did.
share a little bit about
I
what you found
found
out.
out that I had to heal myself.
Mm,
I found out that all the things that were going on, all the things that were happening, you know, God had me accountable, which was fine because
right.
everything that happened to me and every portion of my journey and everything that that every place that I found myself in,
Hmm.
I made a conscious decision
To be
about
there.
getting there.
Mm,
Whether it was a good decision, a reckless decision, an indifferent decision, I did. And once I was okay with that, you know what? I did that.
right. 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 You did
I
that.
left room for
Right.
God to let me be okay with me.
Okay.
I was okay with me. I'm okay with a bad decision. An indecision leaves you limbo. Oh, I'm
Right.
just waiting. I'm just looking. And some of those things we twist in the word. But you know what? You have to make a decision.
Right. Can't be on the fence.
Can't be on the fence. You have to
Gotta
decide.
decide.
And sometimes you learn from bad decisions.
Right.
So make a couple.
I like that.
Make a couple because you're gonna learn.
Right. And just don't stand there and
And
do
don't
nothing.
just stand still.
Right. Right.
And
I
we
love
have to
that.
be careful because the word says stand still, see the salvation of the Lord. But it doesn't mean, when you know better, don't do better.
Right.
Or if you have choices, don't make one.
Right.
He's gonna come down osmosis and do it for you. He's not. God's not gonna come down and move this table for me and Sharon because we're both in here and we can move it.
Well, the word says faith without works
Right.
is dead, right?
Exactly.
So you have the
So you
faith
have to do
and then you got to
something.
do something.
You
Yeah.
have to do
Right.
something. And if you have enough experiences behind you, you can start with what not to do. If you don't know what to do, you can start with what not to do.
Wow. So you making some decisions, good or bad, as you spoke out of your own mouth, good or bad decisions, you consciously made the decisions. What did you learn from, let's talk about God. What did you learn from some of these decisions that led you here? But we're going to talk about that later.
Well, you know what I found out? That I was really favored. I found that I was so
Mm,
favored. I found out that I had come from some very terrible situations, some near death experiences. I was in some really bad and reckless and heinous positions even before I met my husband, and I made it
you
through.
made it through.
And if I don't tell it, I don't even look like it. I come through unscathed,
Wow.
and because of that, I looked at that part of it.
Right.
If that could happen,
Right.
anything could happen.
So you knew God was watching
I
over
saw
you.
miracles. I
Wow.
lived on miracles. I held on to the miracles because those are the only things that I didn't make the decision on. The
Right.
things that I made the decision on, I made effort to work and be
Right.
accountable to.
Right.
But and when I did that, he revealed to me all the miraculous ways that were done for me by him, that I could depend on that, and I could lean on that, and I could look forward to that.
Wow. I love that you said that the things that you didn't do were the miracles
Oh
and
yeah.
you saw the
Oh
miracles.
yeah.
And isn't it awesome to know that God loves you regardless of your mistakes? Sometimes we fall into the pit and feel like, oh, if I just do the right thing all the time, God will love me. But that's not the God that we serve. God loves unconditionally,
That's
right?
it.
He loves our obedience. Your obedience is better than the sacrifice. We know all of that. But he loves us. And think about how much you love your daughter,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And how much I love my daughter. How much more does the God who created the universe love us?
Oh my goodness. He
So,
loves us so much. You know, it wasn't even it's not even what I did that was good that he needed from me.
right,
You know what he needed from me? He needed my commitment.
right,
I was committed to whatever I did. Reckless.
right. So he knew he could
I
use
was
you.
I was strong enough to not be afraid of anything. Foolish.
Mm.
Foolish.
Wow.
And he needed that ability, that characteristic, that it factor
Right,
to never
right,
diminish.
right.
So he never charged me for those things.
Wow. That's a
He
big deal.
polished them.
Woo.
He polished them.
I love that.
He
He polished
polished
them.
them.
Wow. So that leads us to I want to talk a little bit about your daughter. You said you had 3 kids
Yes.
in your marriage. Just tell us a little bit about what that was like with the kids.
Well, my children are very aware of my lifestyle, and I have a criminal background, and a drug background, and um, a violent background,
Hmm.
and I never let anybody tell my children anything about me, so they were aware of anything that went on, with
Right.
me, and so I took a chance with my son being a product of his environment. And my 2 daughters, they both became very talented young ladies. My
Awesome.
middle daughter is married with 2 children, and she lives in Pennsylvania. And she is a professor
Hmm.
at Penn College,
Hmm.
and my youngest one is. Well, she's still home, but she also was very talented in music,
Hmm.
and she went to Penn State to go for pre med.
Right.
But she didn't handle separation well,
Okay.
and it probably had a lot to do with me,
Okay.
you know. And so she's back home, and she's in college now for um, court reporting. She she's a slow bloomer.
Okay.
She's 24, going
Okay.
on to 24.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
And that's
and I
okay.
really appreciate
And
that,
that's okay.
and
That's
I'm
good.
good. I'm glad about that.
Right. Right. Right.
And she also thinks that there's nothing that her mother can't do.
Right. And that's great. That's
Yeah,
really a
she
great
does.
thing. So even though you may not, she may be a slow bloomer in your words, but she has bloomed in some ways that other people may not have ever bloomed in because
Yes.
she's seen what she's seen, she's experienced what she's experienced,
Yes.
and everybody heals differently,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So who are we to say heal now or
Yes.
whatever? It's a journey for all of us, right? So
Absolutely.
we just thank God for her and all your children. I didn't know you had 3 children. That's why I even asked the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to talk a little bit about we've heard about your experiences and things you did and how you came to Christ and your Bible and your amazing husband and his tragic death, and I want to know a little bit about how the church handled it for you or with you, just a little bit.
Well,
We're not church bashing, we're just
I'm
talking.
gonna say this. The one thing that happened was my foundation was in God.
Right.
My foundation with my relationship and my
Hmm.
salvation has to do everything with my relationship with the Father and not with church. I sat at my kitchen table and learned the word without even going into a church for 6 months consecutive every day on a daily basis. So when I did get into the church, um, when I saw that the church was just a bunch of people, just
Right.
like me, who
Right.
needed God,
Right.
when I was disappointed or when I was hurt
Right.
or when I saw things that didn't make too much sense to me
Hmm.
for what we expect from the church, it didn't waive my
Good.
relationship.
That's what I want. I wanted to know.
No.
Because a lot of times we
Um,
do, sorry, a lot of times we do when things happen and we don't get the reaction or the response or the help, whatever we need. Sometimes we blame the church and we come out of the church. But what I love about your story is you already had a relationship with God and you recognize that it's really not about the church
it's not.
because a lot of people in church need just as much support and help as we
Exactly.
do, as anybody else, I should say. And so I just like that comment. I wanted that from
I
you.
was very active in the church,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm very active in the kingdom.
Oh, was that a nugget or not? I love that.
Now I'm
Yes.
very active in the kingdom.
Yes.
So God knows who He wants where.
Mm-hmm.
We need the church. It's the only platform He gave us, and He
Right.
hasn't changed it. So
Right.
that's
He
what we have.
hasn't.
But He also pulls us to the side
Right.
individually
Right.
once we get into our relationship portion
Right.
and not our
Right.
religion.
Right.
Um, and we get strengthened when we don't forsake the assembly. But when we're
Right.
alone, we have other obligations and
Right.
responsibilities and
Right.
purposes. And we
Right.
have to be able to be open to go out and do them. And
Right.
they're not always in the church. I'm not called to the church. I'm called to the kingdom.
I love that. Right. And some people call it the church
And some
now.
people go to the church. Isn't it
You
wrong?
know, some people call it the church. Some people, everyone's called to the kingdom.
Yeah.
But some people are called to do certain interests. Everyone has their calling.
Everybody has their calling.
Right. So, we're not knocking callings. I just wanted to get your thoughts on just how the church experience. Because I know you said things were prophesied over your life.
Yeah.
And then there was some disappointment
Yeah.
when you saw that you felt like it was just all taken
Yeah.
away and suddenly, right?
And I had to remove myself from the church to sort that out. The church really couldn't sort out what God had shown me all those years, and then God had taken away from
Right.
me because
Right.
it was the Lord's doing, and it was
Right.
marvelous in our
I'm
sight. So the church could
Right.
not explain that.
Right.
And I didn't look to them to. I looked to the source. I looked to the Father, and He kept
Mhm.
me to myself, and He kept me out and about, and He kept me to see some of the things that were necessary, and He let me and remind me of some things, and I had to change everything. I had to
Right.
change my whole perspective and my view. I couldn't look from the pulpit.
Mhm.
I had to look from across the street
Right.
from the building. I
Right.
couldn't look
Right.
anymore, from the congregation onto the pulpit or from the pulpit into the congregation. I couldn't look at it that way anymore. I had to look at it from the people who need this because I needed it more than anything.
Right.
With all that information, it was me, oh Lord.
Right.
It was me, oh Lord.
Help me, Lord.
Standing in the need. It
Right.
was me. Yeah, it was me.
Yeah.
So that's yeah.
That's one of my favorite songs by John P. Keaton.
Yeah.
And it's really it's a lot of times we look at other people and we need the prayer. We
It
pray
was
for
me.
everybody else.
It was me.
And it's a lot
And
of times it's us.
it was in a place that all the praying I had done and all the studying I had done and all the exegesis I had done,
Right.
I had to go someplace else.
When did you know that you were on the road to healing? That the choices you made were different?
I'm going to tell you how. I had kept myself away from the church with the work. I got a job that was on Sundays, and I got a job that was traveling. Then I got a job that kept me away from everything and everybody.
Okay.
And I certainly wasn't looking to be in a relationship. I certainly wasn't open for any of that. But an old friend of mine came along and said, God told me I had to look out for you.
Whoa.
And every so often he'd run into me and he'd ask me questions about the word. And I was around people where that wasn't even a topic anymore. We weren't talking about God. We wasn't talking about highly and favored we were in the Lord and today's devotion. No, we were just trying to live and survive and take care of our kids like regular normal human beings. And I was okay with that. I was okay with knowing in my heart that God loved me, but still taking care and trying to put my life back
Right.
together.
Right.
And I recognized that he who findeth a wife find a good thing, because
See.
I married this man. I'm
Okay.
speeding it up a little bit,
Okay.
but yeah, I found an old friend of mine came back into my life,
Wow.
and God
So
used him.
we're not going to speed up that part because that
Okay,
part right there is like a big nugget because
okay.
we're going to encourage some people
I'm
today.
sorry.
Today we're going to no, don't be sorry. That was just a snippet of where we're
Yeah,
going to go with that. But so God sent somebody
he did,
to encourage you
to encourage me and to watch over
and
me
watch over you.
and to
Isn't
and
that so
to
like God?
and to vaguely remind me
Yeah. Wow.
that he had not changed what he
Right,
said.
right,
You
right.
know,
He's
God didn't change what he said.
right.
It just looked completely different than what I could have ever imagined.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome.
Because we can only see in a finite way.
Right.
But what God will show
Right.
you, whew, eyes
Right.
haven't seen and ears haven't heard, nor
Right.
has it entered into your heart. Girl, you can't imagine.
Wow.
You know, a lot of times we pray and we ask God, we want this done, and we already know we telling God how to do it.
Right. And we're trying to help him too.
And it ain't look, and we keep praying. We praying 6 or 7 months about this thing,
Right.
about how.
Right.
Meanwhile, it's
Right.
happening. It just doesn't look
Right.
like it
Right.
because we
Right.
think it's supposed to look one way, but it doesn't.
Right,
It doesn't look that way at
right,
all.
right. And I've been sharing with a few people how God says his thoughts are not like our thoughts. Sometimes when you have a thought, you better check it because it probably is not God. Even as good as it sounds in your head, it's probably not God. It's you.
Because his ways are so high and lofty. How could you know the
Right,
mind? You
right,
can't.
right,
You
right.
can't. And God really had somebody watching over me, because one of the things is I was a widow. Um, and when I became a widow, there was a there was a there was a piece in that.
Mm.
Being widowed and being single are two different things.
Oh, can you share that? Share that.
Oh yeah, because with a widow, you're a wife and you're never gonna unbe a wife. Once you're a wife, you're a wife.
Mm.
Once you're a wife, you're a wife. That's why young ladies out there who are um separated from your husbands and divorced and so forth, and you're moving around and you maybe even be dating, you got to be careful because you will wife a young man before you know it, because you can't help it, because you're a wife. So you got to be really really careful,
Right.
because once you're a wife, you're a wife. And so being a
Wow.
widow, there was a peace in it and a comfort in it, and I would never unbe that. And God was so beautiful that he was already preparing a man who was husbanding from afar,
Mhm, mhm.
and doing that and watching over me and reminding me sporadically in a comfort way, in a very uninvasive way.
Mhm.
It was not anything like, you know, dating, courting, and it was just so, I don't even, I mean, we're not going to speed up to that yet, but I'm just saying I
Right.
was a widow, and because I was a widow, I had some favor with God. He because it was the
Mm,
Lord's doing. He
right.
joined us two together, and we were departed by death. And that was in the vows. And
Right.
so till death do us part. And so
Right.
then God really was
Right.
the husbandman of my household.
I love that.
He really was.
I love that.
And so, you know, there was some strength that I still had to pull out for myself,
Right.
but at the same time, um, you know, this was just very different. It was
Right.
just very different,
Right.
very different.
So once you realized that God had sent somebody to watch over you, and you start getting those little butterfly feelings eventually, because I know you said that you wasn't even looking,
I
you was
wasn't.
trying to survive, you were trying to
I was not.
do your children, make sure there was food on the table and all that
I
great
was
stuff, and
not.
you was focused on that. Share a little bit about the butterflies and then what the next step that you made
Well,
after that.
I, I was impressed. I
Okay.
ran into an old friend of mine that I knew since high school. I ran into him in the supermarket, and he said, "Selena, can I take you out? And I paused and I said, yeah. And he took my number and he didn't call me for a whole year.
1 year.
But
That's
I
okay.
saw him in
Okay.
different places. Like
Okay.
when I went to park my car because I worked in the airport and I had to walk to the bus, he'd be there. And when I went to places that maybe I wasn't familiar with, he'd show up. And
Hmm.
eh, I don't know, maybe he was stalking me. I don't know. But I ran into him in places that after a while it was okay to see him and we're
Okay.
and just out and about. And he did get into my system,
Okay.
and I was a little angry about that because
Hmm.
I didn't know if I was ready for anything. I
Okay.
wasn't even looking for that. And I said to myself, what are you, crazy? You are thinking about this man. What, girl? I said, this is what I said to myself. You'll be a cold-hearted sucker if you go for this.
Oh
If you
wow.
go for this, you'll be a cold-hearted sucker, Selena. Don't you dare. And he just persisted in a very gentleman-like way, in a very nice way. And he just made himself available constantly. And he never left my side. Never left my side. From the day he did finally take me out, he never left my side. And he provided. And he was showed up. And he was concerned. I mean, from little things like, things in the house and my mother's house
Right.
and who the kids need and just
Right.
little stuff without being, forward or
Right.
romantic and just
And
very
isn't that just
nice.
like God?
Yeah,
He's a gentleman,
yeah,
and he shows up, and
and he did,
he shows up like a
and
gentleman,
he did,
and he did.
and he did.
So we talked a little bit before we started about, we this program is to help other women
Mm,
like me, like you, and all the guests who will be on after this, to and men, to help on their journey, give them some hope.
yeah.
So here we have you who came from, I love Jamaica Queens. Jamaica Queens, and I was actually raised in Queens, so I totally get it. It's a whole different lifestyle.
What?
We can't
Yes.
explain Queens
No.
girls.
No.
They're
Yeah.
unexplainable.
Yeah.
And so that journey of just, the life that you lived, you shared about, some of the things that you did,
I did.
right? And that God delivered you from,
He did.
right? And just a favor that you have on your life, right?
Yes.
And in the deepest valley of your life, you knew God was there because of the
Yes.
favor and the love
Yes.
and the protection that He gave you,
Yes.
that He always gave you, even when
Yes.
you didn't know Him.
Yes.
And these things just is so profound that people know that God said He'll never leave you nor forsake you.
Never.
He'll be by your side. He's closer than a brother.
Whew.
And these things is just depicted in your life. It's
Yes.
just your life, and it's an example of those things.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel as though, well, I live like this, I'm that, even they think they curse. I'm cursing. God don't like me. God don't love me. Why should He? And you're a prime example of who God loves
Yes. Yes.
and who God can love.
Yes.
And so that's very powerful on this platform. And I really appreciate you sharing that with us. But I also want to know a little bit, give some women hope of, who are widowed. Because as
Yeah.
you said, this happened at 44. So you're in your midlife, right?
Yeah.
And then now you got to go through this journey. Now you got to pick up the pace of
Yeah.
surviving,
Yeah.
providing,
Yeah.
and healing yourself,
Yeah.
and figuring it all out. That's a
Yeah.
lot to
It
do
is.
in an instant.
It is, and it doesn't happen overnight. I'm 60. I just turned 60 on New Year's Day. And God,
Fabulous 60.
and my life has started over. I got married in October. I had a
Yeah,
beautiful wedding. I had
congratulations.
a full wedding, a
Wow.
beautiful full wedding. I live in a beautiful apartment in Midtown Manhattan.
Right.
Um, I am financially stable, and I'm not saying that to say.
Right.
I'm
We
saying that
encourage you
all
to.
those things
Right.
that when I was a single parent and I was wondering about do I pay the rent or do I pay the
Right.
car note or do I
Right.
get food and do I pay the insurance,
Right.
those things they don't happen anymore. That
Wow.
it's not because the older you get the less the more settled you get.
Right.
No, it's never too late. I
Right.
have every opportunity that I had when I was in my 40s. at my feet now. My life story has been looked at in many ways. I've been told I should do a book. I should do this. I'm in the process of making a movie.
Wow.
And those things you would think, well, you know, I'm 60 now. I mean, I'm not going to be in the movie. we want a box office hit,
But you could
but
actually be in the
I,
movie. Come on
but
now.
we are still aspiring the very goals that I had
Right.
then,
In your
and they're right
40s.
at my
Right.
fingertips.
Because God didn't change his
He
mind.
didn't change his
He
mind.
didn't change his mind.
It's not too late. It's never too late. Don't give up. Don't forget what it is. You know, there are some things that were in you that you don't even know why you had them. You had
Mm.
full vision of them.
Mm-hmm.
And God makes provision for the vision.
Wow.
You're
Say
going
that
to
again.
know God makes provision for the vision. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to know what you can't give up because there's always some source that leads you back to it.
Wow.
That's how you know God gave it to you and he's not going to stop. It's on you. It's up to you. You have all the accountability. You have all the ability to make the decision. You have all the will to decide. And you have to decide, am I going to hold on to this or not? Am I going to continue this or not? Am I going to, you can change your position on it, instead of running the business or, own it.
Right. Right.
Maybe your health is taking a turn and you need to go to bed. Listen, I gotta be to bed at a certain time.
I love it.
Some of y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
We used to hang out on I got
Yes.
9:30 is nice, right?
Yes.
I'm just
Yes.
saying.
And that's
So you
okay.
know what? Now,
Mhm.
instead of me opening up a business and working 12, 24 hours a day, you know what? I got somebody, my oldest daughter can run. I own it.
Right.
There's ways God will adjust, but he will not forget. He said he's going to do exceedingly above all you could ask. So if you were thinking about, doing something one way, there's another level of that you probably can do. And it's not too late. It's
It's
not
not
too
too late.
late.
It's not too late.
It's not too late.
Wow, and that's really the what I want to talk about. It. It's not too late.
It's not.
When you thought all hope was gone,
I did.
everything was lost.
It didn't make any sense to me.
You had to start from scratch, as
And
you
I
say,
was
from the circle
44,
and at 44.
and I thought, at 44, you think you
Yes.
about to hit 50.
No.
You're not thinking. You're thinking, girl,
Yeah, yeah.
you already
Listen,
know.
I already know. I already
No.
know.
And it's not true. It's so not true. God's ways are just high and lofty. You never know. God is just really,
So
really
I'm
good.
almost feeling like the message is work out your purpose and do the things that God has called you to do.
And
And
be
he
okay
will,
with
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
You have to be okay with whatever has happened.
right.
You know?
And then, but then it's almost like your Boaz came while you were in your
He did.
purpose, right? You
He
wasn't
did.
looking for
I wasn't.
anybody, right?
You know what I was doing? I was trying to get better because I had to be the head of my household. And I had to get better at handling that money.
Right.
I had to be, girl. Because when you already married and let me tell you what my biggest problem was as a wife. Going to the shoe department and making sure it was okay to buy all those shoes.
Oh, right.
But then here I was, I had to pay all those bills.
Right.
And I
Right.
had thank God I had bought those shoes. I had enough of them.
Right. Right.
That wasn't a priority anymore. And I loved them, but that was not a priority anymore.
Wow.
And that was okay.
Wow.
And I enjoyed all the years that I was able to go and buy that. But guess what? That wasn't important anymore. And I made a decision. That's not important anymore. It's just that simple. That's simple of a decision. This is not as important as it used to be. That doesn't mean as much to me as it meant last year.
Right.
Do you know what I like now? I like peace now. I don't need friends. There are friends that I have, but friends that, don't need anything from me. There was a time that it was important that, I helped people.
Right.
And I am helping people by making sure that when I say I can help you,
Right.
I can help you completely.
Wow.
Because somebody just coming by and offering you a helping hand is not the same thing as help.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Example.
All right. So early on, when my husband passed, I had a great story, and I was being addressed by people about writing it down and making it a book and making it this and that, and God put it on me to make it a movie. And I came in contact with a wonderful woman who was the chairman of the board of one of these institutions with Carnegie Hall, and she said to me, Your daughter is very talented. Who's the mother? Who's I am? Oh, and I said, you know, she said, I said, yeah, my daughters are involved with music and acting, and I've been bringing them up in you know in the industry,
Yeah.
and I said, but you know, I have something going on with myself now, you know, and I
Mm.
thought I was look, I don't hit the jackpot, right? And she said, well, I can't help you,
Uh-oh.
and I said, I was taken aback. She said, because the amount of help you're going to need, I don't have the time. And I got to tell you something. That was the most powerful thing anyone has ever said to me. And I use it to this day. And I don't initiate help to anybody unless I can fully, completely help them
Right.
with the time, the resources, and all that it's going to take to help them, to give them, not do it for them, but help them.
Right.
And if
Right.
I don't have that, then
Right.
I don't do it.
Right. You don't.
Because we were spinning our wheels. Well, I was spinning my wheels, helping all kinds of people and giving them stuff, putting band-aids on stuff. I wasn't really helping them. I was doing a whole lot of activity. You see, a lot of activity is not always accomplishment.
Right. Just be busy.
You
You're
just busy. You're
Yes.
doing a whole lot. Talking about you running around. That's a whole lot of, listen,
Yes.
ADHD and stuff. Multitasking. You know, I'm not
Wow.
going, God forgive me.
Wow.
I'm not talking about, listen, I got PTSD. So, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
elemental P.
Right. So right. Right. So that really is something. But
Yeah. You have to be really mindful. So when you want to help people, you have to make sure you're in a good position to help them. You have to make sure that your life is indicative to have helped, have been helped, that you know what help really
right.
is.
And that's important to know because we're so busy right now, especially with all the social media. Just life seems busy. I feel like even for myself, I'm starting to just reel back a little bit. Um, Me, I'm always aspiring to do the next thing of God or what God would have me to do, and I don't like to miss anything.
Yeah.
I've always been that person, though. I don't want to miss God. I don't want to miss God. So
Yeah.
let me see if He's over here. If you're not over here, then I'm gonna move. But I'm gonna see if you're over there, right? I'm not gonna guess if you're over there. I'm gonna look if you're over there. So that's just me.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, as you get older, you're like, I'm not trying to be over there. I need to really hear from God. I'm not even going over there, but I don't hear from God. So
And that isn't necessarily getting older. That's when you get hit. You know, when you
right,
get hit with some low blows,
right,
you know not to go over there no more. I'm
right.
not going over there. I don't, even if God is over there. God know where I'm at. I'm not.
Oh,
You
that's
have
funny.
to know
Right,
what not to do,
right.
even if you don't know what to do. I mean, if you're looking for something, if you say to yourself, no, because I know I got this to do, I got that to do, but you know what? You need to sometimes eliminate the things you shouldn't do first to see what's left to do.
Right. I
You know,
like
that's a
that.
nice process.
I
It's a
like
very
that.
nice
I
process.
like that.
Yeah, because you know, you don't want to waste time. You don't want to
Right,
spin any wheels, and you don't
right,
want to be redundant.
right,
You know,
right,
really, you know, some things are mistakes, and some things are just careless as you get older.
right. As you
You
get
know,
older, you
yeah,
realize that. I want to
yeah.
ask you. I know you said that this journey, as you say, was a journey. Was there anybody that helped you? Anybody in the midst of this journey that you said, "Wow, I could pick up the phone or call and, with anything"? Not one person. Does anybody that you read? Did you read anything at the time? We know you read the Bible, or there's days you did this. You just simply held on.
God held me accountable to everything that had to be done because He wanted me to know that it was Him, and it would only be Him.
Mhm.
And you know, there was a thing I used to always say: when am I going to get my 5? Can I just get 5 minutes? I just
Mm,
needed 5 minutes of some regular stuff because I was always trying to, you know, get back on track and fix this and get back here and do that until I realized I didn't want to get back to anything. I had to keep moving forward. And I was going to be in places that I'd never been
mm,
before. But that's
wow,
what He said.
that's what he said.
He said, sanctify yourself, for tomorrow I'll do wonders among you. For you have not been this way before.
Oh my gosh, I love
And
that.
so I had to be prepared to go places I had not been before. And He used all that recklessness and all that danger. He said, since you wasn't scared of nothing, you prime picking. Come on,
Right,
girl, because you ain't
right.
scared,
Not
right?
scared
You
of
never been there
nothing.
before. You
But
ain't scared of
he didn't
that.
give you a spirit of fear, did he?
No.
Power of love and a sound mind.
Yeah, and that's what I had to work on, the sound mind, and take all the voices out my head and all the voices of people and all the people's opinions and all of that kind of stuff, and really shake and heal myself for myself, and make sure that I was really okay with myself, even when people wasn't okay with me. That was okay. That was
Right.
really okay.
Was that a journey for
That
you?
was not that hard.
I didn't think so.
That wasn't that
I
hard because
really,
they didn't like me anyway.
I
It was
really
okay.
didn't think that was
No,
a
that
journey
wasn't
for you.
hard. That wasn't too
I
hard.
don't see you as that person.
That wasn't too
I
hard.
want to ask you, and based on what you just said, what is one of your character traits that you own that most people don't understand about you, and you're okay with it?
Whew. I'm gonna just say my mouth, what I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get in, all my life when I was younger, growing up in school. Why you talk funny? Why you talk like that? I'm very accurate. I want to make sure what I'm saying, I know what it is. It's true. It's right. I'm
Right.
aware of what I'm saying. And then even as a young lady with, young men, you better watch what you're saying to me,
Right.
that kind of thing. And even my mother as a teenager, you watch your mouth. You better watch your mouth.
Right. Right.
But that's the thing, and that's the area,
Right.
and that's even part of my testimony. My testimony.
So your mouth. So you would consider yourself very vocal, and you just
Yeah, I am, and
pretty
I'm
much
okay with it.
say
I
what
have
you
to,
want to say,
but I have to. I say what I have to say.
what you
I
have to
have to say
say.
what God tells me to say. He gave me all that information, and He let me sit in that word for all the time, and really rightly divide it for a reason. The truth is necessary. It has to be said, and it has to be accurate. Accuracy is necessary
Right.
for me.
Right.
Absolutely, the accuracy is pinnacle. It has to be. And I'm sure as the purpose continues to, unravel, the accuracy
So when
is
you say
very important.
accuracy, give me an example of that.
Accuracy, time, date, chronological events, in the order in which things happen, in order and decency, in the
Okay.
order in which things happen, in the manner of which things happen. It has to be accurate. If it's out of order, then it's not true,
Mm.
and it has to be true. Um, if the manner is premature, then we have to wait.
Mm.
If the manner is too late, we got to start all over.
Mm.
It can't. Accuracy is vital because lives depend on that.
Right. So an accuracy meaning like timing,
And not just that, timing, integrity.
integrity. Okay.
You can't be integral after you've been caught.
Oh.
You caught out there, and now you want to be, well, I'll own it now. Well, that's not
Right.
integrity. That's just being honest.
Mm.
Okay? So
Okay.
we need the integrity out the gate, that things
Okay.
won't happen in a way where somebody is going to get set back or misled. It's
Right.
very important.
Right.
Accuracy is very important.
Right.
It's very important.
Wow. So you have shared a lot. I mean, a whole lot. And I'm so grateful for you. All the listeners are grateful. I'm sure they got a whole lot of nuggets. I'm hoping that you guys had your pens and paper ready and wrote down some things because Miss Selena dropped a whole lot of gems on us today. It's just about her life. And I thank you for being so open about it. I know I always seen the favor in your life.
Thank you.
I've seen it. It's very tangible.
Thank you.
And we all wish you all the best. We pray for the best for you. And God is doing the best in you. We congratulate you on being married.
Thank you.
I met your gorgeous husband.
Yes.
And when I say gorgeous in every way, you could just tell he's just an integral man.
He is.
You could tell he loves her.
He is.
Just in the 5 minutes that I met him, you could see all the love oozing out. So I could see why, God gave him to you. And I just thank God for you sharing that because it gives other people hope.
Yes.
Especially widows out there who have lost somebody tragically.
Yes.
And feel as though they're lost.
And even single women who've been single all their life, and then they're in their latter part and think, and still hoping for God to send that husband. He will. He
Right.
will, because you know what? He's going to send him when he's finished and preparing you,
Right.
and
And
that's
we
the
want to talk a
truth.
little bit about that preparation. We got a couple of minutes. I want to talk a little bit about, even though you probably didn't know you were preparing, but I'm
Right.
sure after a while you knew God prepared
I
you.
did. I did. Even as we know the story of Esther and how she was prepared for the king. It was
Right.
3 years that God had set her aside and taught her to dress and had her hair done a certain way and the oils in her skin and so that it was a natural grooming, and it wasn't just a natural grooming physically, but it was what she needed to be accustomed to. And so
Mm,
some of us are, single a long time,
right.
and we need to know that what we were accustomed to, we got to take that out the window and let God make us accustomed to what it's like to share your life with another person.
Wow.
Because you're not going to bring to the table what you bring. You have to bring what God knows the man he set aside for you needs, just as he has set the man aside for what you need. You don't know what those needs are yet. So you have to really let God groom you. You
Yield
have
to
to be
God.
groomed. So when God
Mm,
says that he who findeth the wife, you
mm,
need to let yourself be found. You need to
mm.
let yourself be found and not to dictate who it is. No, not him. That's the devil. That man looking at me, girl, that's the devil.
I
What?
I can't tell you how much I love that. I can't tell you how much
Girl,
I love that. How
that
many?
man sitting over there looking at me. That devil is a lie. Girl, you looking for a husband. Ain't you waiting for the man to come? You're going to have to do a little more soul searching with the Father on that, how that works.
Yeah,
That's another, you're going to call another
yeah.
guest
We
for
are,
that
no,
one.
no, no.
You're gonna,
We're gonna call you right back.
there's some more stuff to go with that.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah,
I love
you have
that.
to let yourself be found. You really have to let yourself be found. And
Right.
there's no devil involved in that.
And
Trust
not be
me.
so guarded. A lot of
Right,
us
you
is
can't do it. You
guarded
can't
and
do it. You
yeah,
can't
and we don't
because God's
know.
gonna send a man that's gonna treat you like gold. So he's not gonna be forceful. And if you hold up these walls, he's gonna move back.
Right, right, right. I love it.
So you have to really,
I love it.
let yourself be found.
Listen, we're gonna stop there because I can't. That right there.
I love you so
I
much. I thank you
hope,
so much for
yes,
having me.
you have been an
Thank you so
amazing guest.
much.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Yes.
We want to thank the listeners for being on, and we want you to share and like as we're going to share this program episode 2 of healing yourself, right?
Yes.
And it's so important.
You do.
It's so important to heal.
You do.
I've learned each and every day how important it is for me to heal. So thank you for being on, Selena. We're gonna
You're
get a
so
hug
welcome.
from
Yes.
Selena. We love, love, love you.